There are secrets in the universe that we cannot even imagine. Space rips open doors between universes where incomprehensible entities lie in wait to invade our world. Humanity has sacrificed everything to protect us from these destructive forces. But can they continue to bear this responsibility alone? Join us in uncovering this truth, in a journey filled with tension and drama, where life and death are only a decision apart. Subscribe to the channel and stay tuned, because the truth will change everything. In an endless void, where stars stretch across the sky like twinkling lamps on a dark canvas, the Galactic Mapping Authority, GMA, takes pride in being the leading organization for mapping the universe. With over 30 years of existence, they have successfully documented 97.3% of the universe that is accessible to other species. Every planet, every star cluster, every distant region is in their hands, carefully recorded in intricate data tables. However, there is one spot that even the GMA's most advanced technology cannot reach. It is a mysterious region, 12 light-years long, located in the outer spiral arm of the galaxy. Unlike other regions where spacecraft can pass through easily, this area is completely blank on the maps, marked only with a brief note, Restricted Zone, Human Territory. Zeethbar, a senior stellar cartographer, stood before the massive projection screen of the GMA, his face illuminated by the cold light from distant stars. His eyes were fixed on the strange, empty spot. In his mind, the question continued to echo, why is there a region of space that even the GMA cannot map? Zeeth had been part of thousands of missions, from recording the farthest regions of space to studying strange astronomical phenomena. But this area, which humanity seemed to have claimed control over, was a mystery that even the GMA had to respect. For centuries, no spacecraft had completed a mission in this area. He pulled up a series of previous mission reports. 17 spacecraft had been dispatched, but not a single one returned with complete data. Some had vanished, others returned with erroneous information, and some brought back vague warnings and systems that were severely damaged. Zeeth's hand trembled slightly as he scrolled through the records. In every report, there was one common detail. The ships all experienced malfunctions once they entered this region. A sense of unease rose within him, but there was something else, something more unsettling, a lack of transparency. There must be something here, he thought to himself, something they don't want us to know. Orurin Zeeth, the director of the GMA and an ancient Valerian, didn't see it as a problem. When Zeeth expressed his concerns, he simply responded, "We respect humanity's territorial sovereignty." However, Zeeth couldn't ignore what he had discovered. Even though Orurin had asked him to cease the investigation and accept the truth that humanity had the right to protect its territory, Zeeth could not simply stand by. He felt that there was something hidden behind this silence. Had a vast region of space ever been concealed like this before? Had any species, no matter how powerful, ever had the right to restrict the exploration of the entire galaxy? One rainy evening, Zeeth decided to investigate further. After his shift ended, he returned to his private research room, where he could access old records documents that few had permission to view. He accessed the records of the early expeditions to this area before humanity joined the galactic community. At first, the spacecraft had been able to pass through this region without any issues. The explorations had recorded stunning planets, rich in resources and full of potential. But then, over 300 years ago, something changed. The spacecraft began encountering strange phenomena. Their sensor technologies became useless, and the reports started to fill with vague references to warped space phenomena and malfunctioning systems. Zeeth felt as though he was standing on the edge of a major secret, something that couldn't simply be coincidence. A terrifying truth was waiting for him ahead, and Zeeth couldn't turn back. Zeeth could no longer live with this uncertainty. Though every clue pointed him toward a suspicious silence, his instincts would not allow him to accept it. He knew there was a bigger secret waiting behind the shadows of the universe, and he couldn't let it slip away. Though there was only a vague reason to justify his determination, Zeeth decided to seek the answers on his own. He returned to the historical records of the GMA, searching for events he might have overlooked. After several hours of accessing outdated data, Zeeth found a strange series of reports. The first spacecraft, hundreds of years ago, had approached the area known as the restricted zone and had not encountered any problems. There were no sensor issues, no strange phenomenon till one day, everything changed. Something changed, Zeeth whispered as his eyes remained glued to the reports. The spacecraft before had moved smoothly through this region, without encountering any issues. But when newer ships were sent, everything began to fall apart. The reports recorded strange incidents, unexplained data discrepancies, disruptions in communication with sensors, and phenomena of space-time distortion. But it didn't stop there. The more recent spacecraft also reported physical phenomena that violated the laws of physics Zeeth knew so well. He couldn't imagine that such a small area of space could harbor such strange occurrences. He sensed a shift in the cosmic map that the GMA had never acknowledged, a clear sign that something different was happening. Before his curiosity could overshadow his reason, Zeeth decided to confront the truth. He couldn't just sit idly by and let these secrets exist unexplored. And in that moment, he reminded himself that there was something far more important waiting for him in this area. If anyone needs to uncover the truth, it's me. But as he turned back to his colleagues, Lennar, his research assistant, entered the room with a worried expression. Zeeth didn't need to say much. Lennar had already read the anxiety in his eyes. "Zeeth, you can't do this alone," she warned. "Director O'Rourke has warned you about that area. Everything happens for a reason." Zeeth didn't respond immediately. He knew Lennar was worried, but he also knew that if he didn't act now, he would never get the chance again. "I need your help," Zeeth replied, his voice firm. "I won't let this silence kill everything we've done." But as they approached the area, Zeeth began to sense an unexplainable presence. "There's something here," he thought, as the sensors started to show signs of abnormalities. First, there were small glitches, then larger discrepancies, causing their ship to lose its position. The ships in this area weren't just losing signal, they were disappearing into space, as if being sucked into a cosmic black hole that no one could comprehend. Zeeth felt as if he was standing on the edge of something unimaginable. These signs weren't just technical anomalies. Space, from what Zeeth could feel, was changing before his eyes. This sensation, it felt like they were entering a place that no longer adhered to the physical laws they had known. When Zeeth's research team entered the restricted area, they uncovered a horrifying truth. It wasn't just a restricted region of space. It was an area where the universe itself was beginning to fracture. The strange phenomena weren't random, they were signs of an impending collapse, as if space and time were starting to lose their inherent stability. The only reason Zeeth could imagine was this. This area wasn't a natural space. It was being influenced by some force that could cause inexplicable changes to the laws of physics and space. On the night Zeeth decided to act, he could no longer ignore the pressing urge within him. The strange signs in space were not just technical malfunctions. He felt that there was something dangerous and terrifying lurking behind it all, a truth that no one in the galactic community dared to face. This sensation drove him to embark on an exploration that could potentially change the way we understand the universe. He could not continue to stand idly by while this event unfolded. Zeeth knew he couldn't carry out this mission alone. He needed a team, those with expertise and courage who would venture into this mysterious zone with him. The journey would be perilous, but it was the only option he had to uncover the truth. Crev Dornia, brilliant spacecraft engineer from the GMA, known for his ability to repair and optimize even the most complex systems, was chosen by Zeeth to be part of the team. Lennar, Zeeth's assistant and a sociologist researcher, had helped him gather important data on humanity, although she had her reservations about investigating this zone. Morovex, a military security expert with extensive experience in dangerous operations, would protect the team from any unforeseen threats. Together, Zeeth's team was formed, a small but formidable group, equipped not only with skills, but also with the determination to uncover the unknown. They had the Stellar Inquiry, a nimble spacecraft thoroughly prepared to endure harsh conditions while hiding their presence. Krev immediately began reconfiguring the ship, optimizing its signal systems to avoid detection. Meanwhile, Morovec checked weapons and defensive equipment, preparing for any dangerous scenarios that might arise. Lenar continued studying the data from the previous spacecraft that had ventured through this region, but she found little that was promising. Their journey was not just an exploration, it was a test of their will and resolve. Every step they took could be their last, and Zeeth knew that well. As the Stellar Inquiry began its journey, the atmosphere aboard the ship grew tense. It felt as though everything around them was unstable. The strange phenomena Zeeth had sensed before were still present. As they entered the restricted zone, the ship's sensors began to flicker. Krev's reports indicated anomalies in the space around them. Something seemed to be waiting, watching them from a distance. "This can't be," Krev muttered, staring at the screen as he tried to analyze the data. "Our sensors can't process these signals. The space here, it's not like anything we've seen." "Strange indeed," Morovec frowned, preparing his weapons, though everything seemed calm for now. "We're entering a place no one has dared to step before. We need to be ready for anything." Zeeth didn't have time to worry. Despite the rising sense of fear in his chest, he had to remain focused. "We have to keep going. We've come this far. We can't stop now." He pointed at the map. "Focus on the mission." As the team advanced deeper, they began to feel the change in space more acutely. The strange phenomena became more pronounced. It felt as though space and time were being warped around them. The disappearances of previous spacecraft were no longer just technical malfunctions. They were a profound shift in the very fabric of space. On the third day of their journey, they discovered a small human space station, floating on an unnamed moon. The team decided to approach and investigate. Lenar quickly analyzed the surveillance equipment and discovered that the technology there was a strange mix of parts, extremely advanced, while others seemed rudimentary. It seems humanity is using these cosmic measurement devices, but not to monitor asteroids or typical phenomena, Lenar observed as she examined the data. They're measuring the stability of space-time. Lenar's words only deepened the team's curiosity. "What are they doing?" Morovec asked, perplexed. "We need to figure this out." "We're about to uncover something huge," Zeeth thought to himself. "If we can decipher these devices, we'll understand why humanity is so fiercely protecting this area." The team continued their journey deeper into the restricted zone, and though no one spoke it, they all sensed that something very unusual awaited them ahead. Something that could change how they viewed the entire universe. The journey of the team was far from easy. After approaching the small human space station, the instability in space continued to increase. Stellar Inquiry ventured deeper into the restricted zone, and the ship's sensor systems began to react abnormally. Everything around them seemed to be changing, causing the atmosphere aboard the ship to become tense. Though every sign pointed to the fact that they were nearing something unseen, the team could not turn back. "We're getting closer," Zeeth said, his eyes fixed on the screen, where a hazy cloud of cosmic dust slowly drifted by. The unease had never felt stronger. It wasn't just the difference in space-time. Now, those changes were becoming more evident than ever before. This sensation was no longer a technical malfunction. Zeeth felt as though an invisible force was watching them, something beyond human comprehension, yet close enough for them to feel its presence. The team pressed on, and on the fifth day, Lenar discovered something intriguing. "There's a ship," she said, her sharp eyes never leaving the screen. "It's a human patrol ship." "How large is it?" Zeeth asked, quickly shifting his attention to the scanning equipment. "Not very big, but enough to make us cautious. It looks like they're keeping an eye on us," Lenar replied, her voice calm, though tinged with concern. Meanwhile, Morovec had already prepared himself, gripping his weapon tightly. His eyes locked on the radar screen. "They might be trying to avoid us," he said with a wry smile. "Or they're waiting for us to make a mistake." Zeeth furrowed his brow. "We won't be able to avoid them for long." The team was ready to face the human ship. It was a risky decision, but Zeeth felt the need to clarify his suspicions. "Make contact with them," he ordered. "We don't have much time. Everything must be made clear." A moment later, the communication screen lit up. A human face appeared. Unidentified ship, you have entered restricted space. Please declare your intentions. It was a female officer with a stern face, but one that showed vigilance. We are a research team from the GMA, Zeeth replied confidently, though his heart raced. We are conducting a standard cosmic survey. We have no intention of infringing on your territory. The officer on the screen didn't change her expression, but her eyes sharpened. You must be aware that this area is strictly protected by the terms of the Galactic Union Accord. The GMA has been informed of this. Why have you violated the agreement? Zeeth felt as though he was being forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. We only wish to understand more about the phenomena occurring here. Previous spacecraft have not returned with full data. Are we facing a danger that no one in the galaxy truly understands? The officer didn't reply immediately, instead remaining silent for a moment before saying, "We will not provide additional information. However, if you want to understand, you will need to meet with our superiors. We will take you to one of our control stations." Zeeth didn't hesitate. We agreed. Stellar Inquiry was led to a human space station, one that appeared completely different from any station the team had seen before. No dazzling lights or complex architecture. Everything was very simple, yet effective. The atmosphere there had an air of mystery, arranged neatly like a well-oiled machine. When the ship docked, they were led to a special area inside the station. Commander Sarah Chen was waiting for them, a stern figure with a determined aura. "Welcome," she said. "I'm Commander Sarah Chen, Earth Control Division." She introduced herself, then looked at Zeeth intently. "You want to know why humanity protects this area, don't you?" "Yes," Zeeth replied, his eyes still full of questions. "We can't continue to live in the dark about this." Sarah didn't smile, but her eyes lit up as though she had been preparing to reveal a great secret. "I'll show you what you need to know, but be prepared. What you're about to see will change how you perceive this universe forever." Barn Danoi. Fun 5. Titlor King Huang. Zeeth Van Yomni. Zeeth and the research team stood in silence before the door of a secure room inside the human control station. Commander Sarah Chen led the way, saying nothing further, her sharp, decisive gaze fixed on them. The feeling of unease among the group intensified, but they knew they had come too far to stop now. The door to the room opened, and immediately, the space inside made the team gasp in awe. This was not an ordinary conference room. Sophisticated technological devices were neatly arranged, with control panels emitting a faint, eerie light. In the center of the room was a massive console displaying data and graphs about space and time, with fluctuating indices. Everything was protected by an impact-resistant glass, as if what lay within was of utmost importance. "Where are we?" Lennar asked, her voice tinged with concern. "This is the multidimensional control room," Chen answered, her eyes still fixed on the team. "This is where we manage events related to space rips and the intrusion of entities from other universes." These words struck Zeeth like a heavy blow to his mind. "Space rips?" he repeated, trying to regain his composure. "Entities from other universes?" Sarah nodded. "Yes. These rips are not natural. They are the result of an inexplicable phenomenon, a cosmic force that we don't fully understand. When humanity developed space travel technology, we discovered that these rips had existed long before we began exploring space." The team fell silent, none daring to speak. Zeeth stared at the console, where strange images of warped space flickered images of space contorted, voids in the universe, strange lights floating in the dark. "What we've discovered," Sarah continued, "is an intrusion from other universes. These entities cannot exist in our space. When they try to intrude, they cause profound changes in space-time. This creates the ripskates between universes." Zeeth couldn't believe what he was hearing. An unbelievable truth was slowly unfolding before his eyes. "What entities? Why has humanity kept this secret?" he asked, his voice tense. Sarah gave a dry smile, as though she had been expecting this question. "Because these entities are not just creatures, they are gods of destruction." She paused, her gaze turning to the large screen in the room. "What you see on the console are their signals and indices. When they intrude into our space, they don't just disrupt space and time. They destroy everything around them." Zeeth felt his mind spinning. "So, humanity has known about this intrusion for a long time?" he asked. Sarah nodded. "We discovered it when we first experimented with space travel technology. When we passed through these cosmic gates, we didn't just travel to distant space. We opened doors to parallel universes, where unimaginable creatures exist." "So these space rips are part of the intrusion?" Lennar asked, her voice full of confusion. "Yes," Sarah answered, "and that is why we must protect this area. Every space rip can lead to the intrusion of an entity from another universe. These entities don't just destroy everything they come into contact with, they also cause distortions in our reality." Zeeth stared at the screen, feeling as though time had stopped. He couldn't fully comprehend what was happening. But one thing was certain: humanity wasn't just protecting its territory. They were protecting the entire galaxy from entities outside of the universe, creatures that other species in the galaxy couldn't even fathom. "What do we do now?" Krev asked, his voice serious. "We've built a system to control these space rips," Sarah explained. "This system includes special technologies to stabilize the rips and prevent the intrusion of these entities. But it's not easy. Every year, we face hundreds of such events." Zeeth felt overwhelmed by this truth. "Then why did the GMA's ships disappear?" he asked, his eyes still fixed on the signals on the screen. "Your sensor systems were not designed to handle such phenomena," Sarah explained. "We had to design special technology to detect and handle these phenomena. The GMA's ships were unable to understand these strange space phenomena, which is why they malfunctioned or disappeared." Zeeth turned back to look at his team, and then he realized something important. They had found the truth, but this truth could change everything. What they knew now was no longer just a cosmic survey. It was a life or death mission, not only for humanity but for all species in the galaxy. What Zeeth had just heard seemed far beyond his understanding of the universe. The space rips, the entities from other universes, and the silent sacrifice of humanity in protecting the entire galaxy left him stunned. He had never imagined that incomprehensible entities could exist out there, and that humanity, a species still considered new by the galaxy, had to shoulder this immense responsibility. Sarah Chen was not just a commander. She was the bearer of a tremendous burden, one that no other species knew about. After listening to all the information about humanity's efforts to protect the universe from the intrusion of these otherworldly entities, Zeeth felt a deep, unspoken admiration. He realized that humanity was not just a species seeking survival in space. They had fought against what no one in the galactic community had ever imagined. Humanity is not just defending its territory. They are the gatekeepers for all other species, Zeeth thought, his eyes still fixed on the massive control panel, where the space-time indices fluctuated continuously. "So, how long have you kept this secret?" Zeeth asked, unable to hide his amazement and curiosity. "About 3 centuries, Sarah replied, her voice calm. "Since we first discovered the intrusion, we had to act quickly. We couldn't let the other species know, because not everyone could bear the truth. Other species wouldn't understand," Lennar said, her eyes full of doubt. "Space-time distortion, unimaginable entities. Perhaps many species wouldn't be able to face this truth. That's why we have to keep it secret." Sarah continued, her gaze sharpening. "Not because we don't want to share it, but if the truth were to come out, everything would be destroyed. Chaos would erupt." Zeeth felt as though a massive weight had been placed on his shoulders. Humanity, a species with a civilization less than 1,000 years old, had shouldered the responsibility of protecting not only their own universe, but all others as well. But now, he and his team knew too much. They couldn't turn back, couldn't continue living in ignorance. "So what will happen if these space rips continue to grow?" Moravec asked, his eyes now glowing with a new concern. "If we can't control them," Sarah answered, "the intrusions will increase. The entities will never stop trying to break through our space. If we don't act, our space will be destroyed. And not just humanity, but all other species will suffer the same fate. Then why haven't you sought help from the other species in the Galactic Union? Lenore asked, her expression one of disbelief. We have the technology. We have the teams. Why keep it all to yourselves? Sarah paused for a moment, as though thinking about the question. Then she replied, We tried, but most of the species in the Union couldn't handle the truth. Some even tried to turn the Rips into weapons. Some have declared that we are violating cosmic principles and must take responsibility for the intrusions. Chaos would ensue immediately. Zeeth understood instantly. They wouldn't be able to understand, he said, his voice tinged with regret. But we will. As the team stood in silence, contemplating all that had just been revealed, Krev suddenly spoke up, his voice somewhat unclear. So, what do we do now? We know too much. If we go back to the GMA, everything will change. And if we keep the secret, we'll become part of the lie. Sarah looked at Krev with a decisive expression. You'll have to decide, she said, her voice cold yet sincere. We can help you understand more about this universe. But can you live with that truth? That's the big question. Zeeth looked at his team. Each of them had eyes full of doubt, but also determination. None of them could go back to a peaceful life after learning this truth. We can't turn back, Zeeth said, his voice strong, as if he had made a monumental decision. We will continue this journey, no matter where it leads. Sarah looked at Zeeth with respect. Then, you've made your decision. She smiled gently, as if this was what she had been expecting. After the meeting with Commander Sarah Chen, the team returned to Stellar Inquiry and left the human space station. No one spoke during the journey, only the sounds of the spacecraft and the echoing silence of the vast cosmos. Each person was deep in thought, haunted by what they had just witnessed. Zeeth sat quietly in the control room, his eyes fixed on the window, where the endless dark expanse of space stretched before him. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had just stepped into a dark cave where everything was unclear and full of danger. He knew that what he and the team had witnessed was not something easily accepted. We're standing between two choices, Zeeth said, his voice low as his eyes remained on the outside view. We could turn back, report to the GMA and the Galactic Union, but that could cause chaos. It might make other species unable to bear this truth. Or we could keep the secret and help humanity continue to shoulder this burden alone. I don't want to be a part of the lie, Lenore spoke up, her eyes filled with uncertainty. But we also can't just stand by while the entire galaxy might be destroyed. Zeeth turned to look at her, his eyes sharp and resolute. We may not change everything, but we can do something to ensure that the price humanity has paid won't be in vain. So what do we do? Krev asked, his voice dry, as if already prepared to face whatever decision came next. Keep the secret or reveal everything? We have to find a way to stop this intrusion, once and for all, Zeeth answered, his voice firm, as though he had found his ultimate goal. We can't stand by while humanity bears all of this. And if there's a way to stop these space rips, we have to try. We won't be able to do it alone, Moravec said, his voice betraying his anxiety. If there really are entities from outside the universe, we'll need a larger team, more powerful technology. We can't face that with just one ship. Zeeth stood up, walking toward the window, where the vastness of space seemed endless. Then, we'll seek help. He turned back to look at his team, his eyes filled with determination. Humanity can't do it all alone, but if we can cooperate with the other species in the Galactic Union, if we can build a strong team, we can stop this intrusion before it's too late. But will the other species accept help? Lenore asked, her voice still tinged with doubt. We won't know unless we try, Zeeth said. We have to show them that this intrusion isn't just a human problem. It's a global issue. If we don't act now, there won't be a universe left to protect. The team began discussing the details of their next steps. They would have to contact the species within the Galactic Union, those who could understand the gravity of the situation. Zeeth didn't believe humanity could solve this alone, but he couldn't leave the other species in ignorance either. To save the universe, they would need to cooperate. And to cooperate, they would have to face the truth. We'll need to execute a careful communication strategy, Lennar suggested. The Galactic Union needs to know that humanity is protecting all species from the intrusion of these entities from other universes. But we can't reveal the full truth. If we do, it will only cause panic. Right, Krev said. We'll have to notify them carefully, revealing just enough for them to recognize the threat, but without causing fear. We'll have to be cautious, Zeeth said, his gaze more serious than ever. Revealing the truth might be the right decision, but if we don't do it the right way, it could destroy everything. A week later, Zeeth's team was ready for their meeting with the representatives of the Galactic Union. We've come too far to turn back, Zeeth thought, a mix of anxiety and determination building within him. This meeting would be a pivotal moment, and whether they succeeded or not, it would be the most important decision of their lives. It's time to act, Zeeth said, his face full of resolve. The atmosphere aboard Stellar Inquiry grew strangely silent as they neared their meeting point with the representatives of the Galactic Union. It had been a week since Zeeth and his team decided they could not turn back, and everything now depended on one decision that could change not only the future of humanity but also the safety of the entire universe. What can we do if they don't believe us? Krev asked, his gaze fixed on the control screen. If they think we're exaggerating the issue? We can't just sit here and wait, Zeeth replied, his voice full of determination. We will show them the evidence. If they don't believe our words, we will prove it. Zeeth's team had prepared everything: data, reports, images from the human devices. They wouldn't just talk about the intrusion from other universes. They would show the Galactic Union the real danger. The space rips, the strange images, and the entities humanity had faced would be revealed. But that wasn't all. To stop this invasion, they would need support from all the species in the Union. We will have to face the truth, Lennar said, her eyes focused on the charts on the screen. This truth could change everything. But if we do nothing, this universe will disappear. Zeeth knew they were standing on a thin line between saving the universe and destroying everything. But he also realized one thing: humanity has sacrificed too much. They have kept this universe safe, and no one knew. But if we don't act now, that sacrifice will be in vain. As Stellar Inquiry approached the meeting point, the space around them became hazy, the surrounding stars slowly dimming as if the light couldn't pierce through the dark shroud. Zeeth felt an invisible force encompassing everything, and a chill crept into his heart. This was the greatest turning point they had reached. It's time, Zeeth whispered, preparing to step out of the control room. Are you ready? Moravec asked, his eyes sharp, filled with worry but also resolve. We have no choice, Zeeth replied. When they arrived at the meeting point, the Galactic Union was already prepared. Representatives from various species had gathered, from peaceful ones like the Ardini to the warlike powers like the Vaughn. Each species had come to hear humanity's request, but no one knew that the truth Zeeth and his team carried would change their world forever. Greetings, I am Zeeth Bar, representing the Galactic Mapping Authority. Zeeth began, his voice resonating in the large room. We've come here to warn you of an event taking place in space, an intrusion unlike anything you've ever seen. Intrusion? A Vaughn representative laughed mockingly. We've heard about humanity and your weakness. You can't even protect yourselves. How can you talk about an intrusion? We're not just protecting ourselves, Zeeth replied confidently. We've been protecting you. The truth is, the space rips are not just humanity's problem. They're a threat to the entire galaxy. And if we don't act now, our space will no longer be safe. At that moment, a representative from the Ardini stood up. We've heard enough. Humanity has protected us without anyone knowing. It's time we stand with you. If we don't act, the Vaughn representative said solemnly, the universe will become prey for things we cannot understand. Don't let our discord destroy this opportunity. We don't have time to argue, Zeeth said, standing firm against the threats from the other species. We must act immediately. The sacrifice of humanity is unimaginable. Sarah Chen spoke up from behind. We've lost so much. Do you understand? Every year, Millions of human lives have been lost to maintain this cosmic barrier, but we can't do it alone anymore. You can help us protect this universe, or we'll lose everything." A heavy silence fell over the room. All eyes turned to the Galactic Union representatives, the species that had once doubted humanity, but now faced the truth about their unimaginable sacrifice. "We'll do it," finally, the Halton Collective representative spoke. "We'll help humanity. We will cooperate to protect our space." "Thank you," Zeeth said, his voice choked with emotion. "Now, we must prepare. We'll face challenges that no one has dared to imagine.